Hello folks, today I'm going to talk about a slightly more controversial subject. It's come about because we've seen a few conversations on Facebook and Twitter around how great Arthur is and how cute he is and how much they would love to have one or want one, and I thought it's worth me doing a video to go through the reasons why you're probably not ready for a Pouchy. The first thing that gets mentioned a lot is, oh, they're just like a giant fancy rat, and that just so isn't true. As I went through my top 10 differences between fancy rats and pouch rats, there's a lot of things that are not in common. Fancy rats are domestic animals. Pouch rats are wild animals. They are, in all intents and purposes, wild. They've been domesticated for an extremely short space of time compared to fancies. For that reason, it makes them extremely unpredictable in comparison. Your experience with a fancy rat does not necessarily qualify you to have the experience of a Pouchy. I would say one of the most useful characteristics to have in someone that keeps a Pouchy is just being a general animal expert or an enthusiast, not just an animal owner. Someone who has kept animals for years and years and years, knows about the care of animals that they've not necessarily kept before. So another one we get is, oh, they'd make a lovely pet for my children, and that just really, again, is not true at all. I would go as far as to say that they're not suitable for children households at all. There's going to be cases out there where people are who keep Pouchies and do have children and cope perfectly fine, and good for them. There's probably equal number of people that don't. So as I previously touched on, you probably don't have enough time for a Pouchy. It's really hard to convey how much time they take. In our case, every single night Arthur is out for between 2 and 4 hours. And that really depends on how much time we've got during the week or the weekends around work. But after 8 o'clock he is out, and he is out until bedtime. And it's not a matter of get him out and let him roam and do his thing. This is one-on-one time with him. He needs constant supervision, he needs constant watch. He can't just be left to his own devices. And if you can't designate 2 to 4 hours every single night, and that's not including cleaning time, that's not including any other time that you spend with your other animals, with just them, then you probably don't have the time for them. It's really hard to help people understand how unpredictable they can be. You can go from having something that licks you and seems to really enjoy being with you on one day to the next day giving you a fairly nasty nip and not wanting to be near you. It's just part of them being a very, very unpredictable wild animal. So having a rat-proof house, now anyone who keeps fancies will probably already have their house somewhat rat-proofed. But this is generally not good enough for a Pouchy. They will get everywhere. They will climb up your cabinets and knock down your plant pots while you're in the bath, and shimmy up the banister or climb up your TV and onto picture frames. There is nowhere they won't try to get to. The big difference between them and fancies is that fancies will tend to give up fairly quickly if there's somewhere they can't reach, but Gambians will keep trying until they get there. What we do is we have a run of the house that is rat proof, that is for him, and there is parts. Our dining room and our rat room are completely separate. He doesn't go out there. He knows he's not allowed out there. It doesn't stop him trying, mind, but for us that is his no-go zone. So it means we can have stuff out there that couldn't be left elsewhere. And this is silly things like leaving household plants around can't be done. Leaving a bunch of flowers that someone's bought you can't be done because they'll be chewed, knocked over, eaten, and potentially can be poisonous. Leaving objects around the house, leaving paper, envelopes, anything that you would assume they wouldn't interact with, they potentially can. So keeping your house pretty bare is one of the necessities, I'm afraid. The 5 to 7 commitment, they live between 5 and 7 years, so that's quite a long commitment for someone who keeps fancies. It's probably beyond what very much beyond what they're used to. If you believe that your situation might change in 5 to 7 years, if you're in a relationship that's rocky from time to time, or you don't know if you're going to have to move house anytime soon, maybe think again about getting a Pouchy. They need that solid commitment for 5 to 7 years. After spending 5 years ourselves contemplating the idea of getting a Pouchy, it's taken us this long to be in a position where we can commit 5 to 7 years. I think financial stability is a must, mainly because vet bills for an exotic animal like a Pouchy could potentially end up being many thousands if they were to fall and break their leg, which from what I've said before is entirely feasible. You need to know that should something happen you can instantly get hold of potentially thousands to take them to the vets. There's also cages and toys which, as much as we're used to, they need to be bigger and more numerous for a Pouchy. Also to a certain extent fresh food. We're used to giving fancies fresh food. Pouchies need a lot more fresh food and consume a lot more because of their size. So the keeping costs are much higher. It's also worth adding financial cost of insurance. Most people are completely alien to the prospect of insuring a fancy rat. I would go as far as saying that no insurer will insure a fancy rat. But a pouch rat can be insured and should be insured, again to counteract any vet costs that could run into thousands. You know you've got that backup should you find yourself in that position. Now most of us, if we're going to even consider keeping a Pouchy, probably have many more animals, but it's important to know that they should really be kept separate. We have a cat, Tabitha, and she has grown up around rats. She knows that they are not for her to interact with. She knows that they are in charge. Arthur's thrown a spanner in the works for her because most of the rats will avoid her to the same extent that she avoids them. Arthur will actively seek her out and terrorise her, and I've seen it put Tabitha under quite a bit of stress, I think, since we've had him. So for anyone who potentially has a cat that does seek out rodents and has to be generally quite careful with their fancies as it is, you'll probably find that a Pouchy will actively seek the cat out, for example, and potentially do it some damage if they did attack. I think in a fight between a cat and a Pouchy, both parties would probably come out equally as hurt. Well, I hope that's helped. I'm not here to try and sway some minds one way or the other, but just to make sure that everyone's aware of what's involved. I don't think there's necessarily huge amounts of information out there at the moment about what is involved and what people should be aware of. All I can say is that do your research first. Thanks folks, subscribe for more Arthur Pouchy.